What if I told you that one African president cut his own salary, sold government luxury cars, banned corruption, empowered women, and challenged the world's most powerful nations, all before the age of 38? No private jets, no Swiss bank accounts, no presidential mansion. This is the story of Thomas Sankara, a man many called Africa's Che Guevara, and others call him the leader Africa never deserved but desperately needed. Thomas Sankara was born on December 21st, 1949 in Yako, a town in what was then Upper Volta, a former French colony, today known as Burkina Faso. From a young age, Sankara was known to be brilliant, disciplined, and curious. He joined the military not because he loved war, but because it was one of the few ways a poor young man could get an education. While training abroad, especially in Madagascar, Sankara was exposed to Marxist ideas, anti-imperialism, and revolutionary politics. He began to see how colonialism didn't really end, it just changed form. This realization would shape everything he later did.
Voyez-vous, l'impérialisme a tort. Mais l'impérialisme est un mauvais élève. C'est un mauvais élève. Quand il est battu, quand il est renvoyé de la classe, il revient encore. C'est un mauvais élève. Il n'a jamais appris la leçon de son échec. Il n'a jamais tiré la leçon de son échec. Il est là-bas en Afrique du Sud, en train de parler, en train d'égorger les Africains. Simplement parce que ces Africains pensent à la liberté comme vous aujourd'hui. L'impérialisme, il est là-bas, en train d'écraser les peuples arabes.
In the early 1980s, Upper Volta was struggling with extreme poverty, corruption, heavy dependence on foreign aid, political instability. Sankara quickly gained popularity, especially among young people and soldiers, because he spoke plainly and fearlessly.
Ça sera 20 maternités. Et chaque année, ce sera comme ça. Camarades, l'impérialisme, le colonialisme, le néocolonialisme, le fantocisme, le voleur, le paresseux, le décodeur, le mobouilleur.
In 1983, after being arrested for his views, a group of revolutionary soldiers led by his close friend Blaise Compaoré staged a coup. At just 33 years old, Thomas Sankara became president. Almost immediately, everything changed. One of Sankara's first acts was symbolic but powerful. He renamed the country from Upper Volta, a colonial name, to Burkina Faso, meaning land of upright people. He rejected luxury, sold off government Mercedes-Benz, replaced them with cheap Renaults, cut his own salary to about $450 a month, lived modestly, owning little more than a guitar, a fridge, and a bicycle. Sankara believed leaders should live like their people, not above them. He also launched massive reforms, vaccinated millions of children against meningitis, measles, and yellow fever, promoted local food production instead of imports, built schools, roads, and clinics. Using local labor, he planted millions of trees to fight desertification. Burkina Faso began feeding itself, no begging, no dependence. One of the most revolutionary things about Sankara was his stance on women's rights. He openly said, "The revolution and women's liberation go together." Under Sankara, women were appointed to high government positions, forced marriages were condemned, female genital mutilation was banned, women were encouraged to work and be financially independent. He even made men to take part in household duties to understand women's daily struggles. This was unheard of in many African countries at the time. Sankara believed a society could not be free if its women were oppressed. Thomas Sankara didn't just challenge local elites, he challenged global powers. He openly criticized foreign aid, calling it a modern form of control. IMF and World Bank debts, saying Africa was being strangled. In a famous speech in 1987, Sankara urged African leaders to refuse to pay colonial debts. That speech made him powerful enemies, not just abroad, but at home.
Nous avons l'impression que chaque fois qu'on nous pose les conditions, au niveau du FMI par exemple, c'est pour créer d'autres conditions. On nous dit, nous sommes prêts à vous accorder tel financement à condition que vous fassiez telle chose. Nous acceptons ces conditions, nous remplissons ces conditions. On nous amène encore d'autres conditions. On nous amène encore d'autres conditions. Cela devient troublant. Alors, quels sont les pays où le FMI a réussi? Quels sont les exemples où le FMI est parti et cela marche très bien? Nous n'en voyons pas.
Vous avez dit non à l'aide alimentaire. Pourquoi?
L'aide alimentaire que nous avons reçue, malheureusement, au lieu de nous aider à nous développer, nous a maintenus dans une mentalité d'assister. Chaque jour, on tend la main pour demander à manger. Ça, c'est mauvais. Deuxièmement, l'aide alimentaire fait que les paysans de chez nous qui auraient pu produire ne peuvent plus produire parce que quand ils produisent, ils n'arrivent plus à vendre. C'est les surplus des paysans des autres pays qu'on nous amène ici. Nous, nous demandons autre chose. Celui qui veut nous aider vraiment peut nous donner des charrues ou des tracteurs, des engrais, des insecticides, des tuyaux, des arrosoirs, des barrages, des forages. Voilà, ça c'est de l'aide alimentaire. Mais celui qui nous amène les sacs de blé, de mil, de maïs ou du lait, cela ne nous aide pas. Il nous gave comme on gave les oies. Pour pouvoir vendre l'oie, pour qu'elle soit lourde, présenter qu'on puisse la vendre. Ça, c'est pas nous qui cherchent, c'est leur argent qu'ils cherchent. Ce n'est pas l'aide.
On October 15, 1987, just 4 years into his presidency, Thomas Sankara was assassinated during a coup. This coup was led by his former best friend and ally, Blaise Compaoré. Thomas Sankara and Blaise Compaoré had one of the most dramatic political relationships in modern African history, from brotherhood to betrayal. Thomas Sankara and Blaise Compaoré were very close friends long before they became leaders. Both were young army officers in Upper Volta, which is now known as Burkina Faso. They shared revolutionary ideas, anti-imperialist beliefs, disdain for corruption and elite privilege. Sankara was the ideologue and visionary, while Compaoré was the strategist and power broker, especially within the military. Many people described them as inseparable. Sankara trusted Compaoré deeply. When Sankara was arrested in 1983 for his radical views, Compaoré helped orchestrate the coup that freed him. On August 4, 1983, Sankara became president, Compaoré became Minister of Justice, then a key military commander. Together, they launched a radical revolution. They renamed the country Burkina Faso, meaning land of upright people. They rejected IMF and World Bank control. They promoted women's liberation. They cut elite privileges. They championed African self-reliance. At this stage, they were seen as co-architects of the revolution. But over time, tensions emerged. Sankara was idealistic and uncompromising, willing to confront France, elites, and neighboring leaders, believed in moral purity of the revolution. While Compaoré was more pragmatic or opportunistic, depending on the perspective. He was concerned about Sankara's growing international isolation, anger from traditional elites, pressure from France and neighboring states like Côte d'Ivoire. Some insiders say Compaoré felt marginalized, afraid Sankara's policy would collapse the states or that Sankara was becoming too powerful. On October 15, 1987, Blaise Compaoré led a coup d'etat. Thomas Sankara was assassinated along with 12 colleagues. Compaoré seized power immediately. Compaoré justified the coup by claiming that Sankara had betrayed the revolution. Burkina Faso needed rectification, but for many Africans, this moment is seen as one of the most painful betrayals in African political history. A trusted friend turned executioner. Under Compaoré, he ruled for 27 years. He reversed many Sankara policies. He realigned with France, Western institutions. Sankara's name was suppressed. Investigation into his murder were blocked. Then in 2014, popular uprising forced Compaoré into exile. Courts finally reopened the Sankara case. In 2022, the Burkina Faso found Compaoré guilty of complicity in Sankara's assassination.
Viennent nous édifier sur les responsabilités individuelles du président Compaoré, du général Diendéré et autres sur l'assassinat prémédité du capitaine Sankara et de ses collaborateurs.
Thomas Sankara remains to this day an iconic leader for his sweeping socialist reforms in Burkina Faso, a country which he himself renamed.
Blaise Compaoré is now exiled in Côte d'Ivoire. He has been living in exile neighboring Côte d'Ivoire since he was forced from power by mass protests in October 2014 and fled to Abidjan. After leaving office, he reportedly acquired Ivorian nationality. The Ivorian government has refused Burkina Faso's extradition requests related to the 1987 assassination trial. In April 2022, a military court in Burkina Faso convicted Compaoré and sentenced him to life in prison for complicity in the murder of his predecessor, revolutionary leader Thomas Sankara, during the 1987 coup. But he made a brief return to Burkina Faso in 2022 at the invitation of transitional military government for a summit of former leaders, a move that sparked controversy, but he did not face arrest then. So as of early 2026, he remains based mainly in Ivory Coast, largely out of reach of Burkina Faso's authorities. However, Compaoré expressed regrets. He apologized to Sankara's family in a written message read out publicly in mid-2022. Compaoré asked for forgiveness from the Burkinabe people and from the family of Thomas Sankara for acts committed during his rule. He stated that he regrets from the bottom of his heart that all the sufferings and tragedies experienced by all victims during his term as a leader. However, in the same context, he repeatedly denied that he had planned or ordered Sankara's assassination, and he did not personally attend the trial. Many in Burkina Faso, including civil society figures, see his apology as incomplete or politically motivated, arguing that he has neither fully accepted legal responsibility nor faced justice in person. Today, Compaoré is still living in Ivory Coast in exile and holds Ivorian citizenship. He has been convicted in absentia and sentenced to life imprisonment in Burkina Faso for his role in Thomas Sankara's killing. Today, Thomas Sankara is remembered as a symbol of African self-reliance, a leader who walked the talk, proof that integrity in politics is possible. His speeches still inspire activists, students, and leaders across Africa and beyond. Thomas Sankara didn't just rule a country, he challenged a system, and that is why decades later, his name still echoes. Thank you for watching, and make sure you like, you make your comment, and also subscribe to this channel for more videos like this.